This meeting is being.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar titled Navigating the Updated State of Illinois' Hiring Process, Leading Your Customers to State Employment Opportunities. Today, we will be hearing from Sarah Curley with CMS. While Sarah is presenting, please be sure to place yourself on mute to help minimize disruptions. If you have any questions for Sarah today, feel free to send a message through the chat feature located in your Zoom toolbar. Today's session is being recorded and will be made available on the Illinois workNet YouTube channel for you to refer to later. Now, I am pleased to introduce Sarah with CMS. Sarah, feel free to take it away.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday that feels like a Tuesday. Holiday weeks are always so nutty. So I thank you for finding time to join us today. As Daniel said, I'm with CMS. I am Chief Administrative Officer for CMS. Personnel and labor are in my portfolio. And as many of you likely know, we are undergoing an IT transformation. We went live with electronic applications for non-union positions in January of 2021 and have rolled in additional union positions into that process over the last year and a half. And all positions posted July 1st or after go through this process. So while it is much closer to the way that the rest of the world hires people, it is a little unnerving, especially for our state employee folks who essentially had to decipher key to a historical unused language anymore. So I wanted to make sure that we talk through a few things today, give you opportunity to ask questions. I very much appreciate the work that you all do out in the community. It is a really rough, weird employment market right now. Again, not telling you anything you don't know, but so I have some slides today that I will also share with the team so that they can share with all of you all. Some of the items, and so I'll apologize in advance for anything that I talk about that you already know. Lots of you are state employees or have been state employees, and so some of it is likely redundant to your lived experience, right? I really am not intending to talk at anybody like they're third grader. But I do want to cover a few things. There's some stuff in here I think that you likely don't know. I say that because even as a executive leader here at CMS, and CMS administers the benefits program for state employment, there were things that I didn't know. So I threw some slides in on that just to give you kind of a high level overview, both as a state employee who may want to leverage these benefits, but they're also things that are really, that I think are pretty attractive to the clients, customers, constituents that you all serve and interact with. So with that, I'm going to jump in. We still see some people joining, which is great. But I'm going to start with the kind of why state employment, and then I'm going to get into, okay, so now that you love it, or there's something that sounds really exciting to the people that you work with, how do you go about helping them get into state service? I will also, knowing that I do have state employees on the phone, I will also give you a couple clicks of the internal site. So if you do have clients or customers who are existing state employees and or you are looking for your next opportunity, promotion, etc. Though your work's important, to stay exactly where you are till we get fully staffed. Deal? All right, so why state employment and how to get in? So why state employment? So we are hearing both in academic research, anecdotally, et cetera, that that a majority of job seekers, particularly younger job seekers, so younger gets older and older every day, younger workers, are really looking for work with a purpose, and the state certainly provides that. The vast majority of our positions make a difference in the lives of others, and and you can certainly find meaningful and fulfilling careers with the state of Illinois. I've been asked before, we've kind of given some thought to, are there actually industries or functions that the state doesn't perform, such that, oh, well, if you're in this line of business, then, the state doesn't have anything for you. And I've come up with one job that is not performed by a state employee anywhere in state service, and that is the function of embalming bodies. We contract that out. But everything up to and afterward, and in conjunction with, and all the other things that you can think of in the world, there is a job somewhere in the state that does that. So there really is an opportunity for everyone from recent high school grads, college grads, up to people in the seasoned in their career and looking for that kind of pinnacle of their industry. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that make state employment great. So this is I know this looks that some of the text is pretty little, some of it, lots of it, right? They don't call it Cadillac Plus health insurance for nothing. I am a longtime state employee. In fact, I've spent my entire, I'm a lawyer by training. I've spent my entire legal career in government. I started working for the state as a student worker when I was like 16 and a half. And so I don't have great context for just how good our health insurance is. But a couple factoids that I tell people, and granted, it's been a while now, my kids are 13 and 10, but I like to share, right? It cost me $350 to have a baby. From my first maternity visit through leaving the hospital after a C-section and a 4-day stay. That's pretty amazing health insurance. I know that I had a girlfriend, a single mother, recently was looking for insurance for her and her high school age son, and they were looking in the neighborhood of $1,200 to $1,300 a month, whereas I pay for a family of 4 for under $500 a month. So the health insurance really is great. Full coverage, lots of options all around the state, even places in more rural communities where there are less options, right? We know that that's great. Vision and dental we have really good vision and dental coverage. Behavioral health services. So not only do our health insurance coverage, does our health insurance cover mental health treatment, et cetera, we also have programs specifically for state employees to receive 5 free visits without ever even leveraging their health insurance. Lots of flexible spending options so that you can make your money stretch. Free flu shots. We have a comprehensive wellness program. There are disease management, smoking cessation programs, weight loss benefit programs where you can actually enroll and leverage those benefits as well as your health. I obviously have not been taking advantage of those, but should. And the other thing is, the great benefits for retirees as well. Healthcare is a really, obviously, really competitive industry and a really competitive market in lots and lots of places. But I was astonished to learn that my mother-in-law, 35 years at a big hospital company, retired from being an ICU charge nurse and had really crappy insurance, if any, at retirement. And that is certainly something that folks who spend their career in government and retire with the state, they have access to really great insurance as well. Okay, yes, my slides will be made available to participants. Okay, work-life integration. So those of us that work in state service, we take our 37.5 hour work week for granted. The rest of the world, of course, usually operates on a 40-hour work week. We almost forget the benefit of that time, right? So if you take 2.5 hours times 50 weeks, say you only take 2 weeks of vacation, that is nothing to shake a stick at, right? So the ability to kind of balance your work and your life paid overtime, accrued benefit time, lots of paid vacation and holidays. I teased, I was recently at the Des Moines State Fair, and there was a family that came in that had a state worker, and then the husband was trying to get into the state. And I said, the best day to turn state employees into recruiters is on general election day, a holiday that almost no one gets but us, every other year. And when you're talking to your friends and family and they're like, what are you doing this week? Well, it's a 3-day weekend, or I have Tuesday off and I'm just gonna take one day and be gone for 5. That's a great opportunity to say you should look into state service as well. Vacation and sick time, with some limitations, roll over. That is something that is atypical in the private sector based on my understanding. 10 weeks of paid parental leave. We've seen a number of pieces of legislation over the last few years requiring unpaid parental leave for private sector employers. We, of course, have not just paid leave, but very, very generous paid leave that has been at 10 weeks for quite a while. It was 3 weeks when I had both of my kids, for the record. And we're going to talk a little bit about my benefits plus. So you have your baseline benefits, and then state employees also have the ability, with some certain eligibility requirements, to access a whole host of other benefits programs that are administered by a third-party vendor and overseen by CMS. And we're going to talk through some of them because they're really cool. Adoption benefit program. It is a little-known fact that state employees who adopt children, they get parental leave under the kind of adoption standard, and then there are also monetary benefits to help defer the cost of adoption. And then, of course, various other kinds of leaves that are available other places. Disability leave. We also have family responsibility leave. Will hold your job for a year if you got to go take care of stuff. And of course, then FMLA general leave. You can also take educational leave, military leave, right? We keep your job there for you. There are a lot of financial wellness opportunities for state employees as well. Life insurance, robust deferred compensation. Chicago area staff can engage in commuter savings program to help defer the cost of commute. There are discounts available to state employees. Public service loan forgiveness is a big one. Not just the most recent, $10,000 or $20,000, but your time in state service can actually lead you to a place where you can get your loans forgiven after a period of time. And that's an ongoing program. Heads up for those of you who are in state service, have been in state service, and haven't yet participated. The public service loan forgiveness program is an ongoing program, but there is currently up through Halloween, there is a waiver that can allow state employees to look back and get credit for payments that would have not otherwise been eligible absent the waiver. IDSPR and CMS are working together to get the word out. IDSPR is having some webinars. So if that is something that kind of piques your interest, reach out to your HR shop. They should have passed along information in the last week or so, and will continue to do so between now and Halloween. Okay, retirement and pension, right? So say what you will about Tier 1 not being Tier 2, which is true. Pensions at all are going the way of the dinosaur in so many other places. But the ability to both use deferred comp to fund Roth IRAs as well as pension benefits, and that those benefits go to your survivor should your family survive you, is still a really important element for a lot of people. We compensate staff with language skills, especially those who leverage them in their work. So that is another benefit that is not often recognized in the private sector. And of course, easy access to 529 college savings plans. for state employees. Lots of professional development. You know, old school wise, people used to say, and I think people still do say, just get in. Just get in the state. Get in the state. The world is your oyster. You can go anywhere. You can do anything. You just got to get in. And to some extent, that is still true, in part because our workforce remains about 93% unionized, and there are lots of benefits, promotional benefits, et cetera, to union membership. There are other career progression opportunities as well. So the Upward Mobility Program is specific to AFSCME members, which is our largest labor partner, of course, where you can actually get reimbursed for certification programs, for college courses, et cetera, that would make you eligible for promotional opportunities. So not only can you be eligible for reimbursement for the education that makes you eligible, you then have a leg up when those promotional opportunities come. But even non-AFSCME members have the opportunity to get paid education and training opportunities. We have we continue to develop learning management and additional professional development and training. CMS University is a platform where this statewide training is available so if one agency puts on a really great training regarding, how to deal with difficult people, for example, that's now available to all state employees through a uniform platform. CMS University is also home to some really important resources and conversations around diversity and equity issues, both in the workforce and in society as a whole. We work with veteran group partners to help reach veteran applicants and connect them with state employment. And then we also have a number of programs for people with disabilities, the newest of which is the Disabled Workers Trainee Program. We have, by statute, a certain number of state agencies with however many, I think over 1,000 staff maybe, are statutorily required to establish a disabled workers trainee position, but we are seeing a number of those crop up across the enterprise. And those are positions that are available for people with disabilities to get into this trainee program, to be hired into a trainee program and to have a trainee period where they then promote into full-time permanent state employment from that trainee period. And that trainee period is, specific to helping accommodate and get acclimated to the workforce for people who otherwise would have difficulty getting into work and or acclimating to the workforce once they got there. We also have, we work with DHS Rehab Services for the Successful Persons with Disabilities program, which helps connect vocational rehabilitation clients to state employment. And alternative employment is a benefit to state employees who would become disabled from their current position while working. They can then become eligible for other positions kind of ahead of the queue. So if I'm a highway maintainer and I have a leg injury that prohibits me from continuing as a highway maintainer, but of course I could also be eligible. I'm also qualified for a number of other positions. We help work with folks to get them connected with other employment. All right, that's a lot of information. Before I jump into the My Benefits Plus stuff, I'm going to pause here and see if anybody has any questions. Feel free to unmute or to throw it in the chat. Going once, going twice. All right, we'll move along. Okay, so here's some slides that CMS Benefits has used in a different context. These are this My Benefits Plus program. So unlike open enrollment, which has defined times, right, the month of May, pretty much for health, vision, dental, etc. My Benefits Plus you can access anytime. You go to your My Benefits portal. But some of the things that I wanted to cover, pet insurance. And we love our furry family members, but they can be expensive. So pet insurance is an add-on option for state employees through My Benefits Plus. This is an awesome one. So I'm going to pause here a little bit more. So Purchasing Power is a vendor whom we contract through this My Benefits Plus administrator. So think about when we were young and starting out, and you're getting your first house or whatever, and the shift from like a renter to an owner is a pretty big shift for a lot of people, or different kinds of rental, right? Your fridge goes out, that is a mess sometimes. That can totally throw a family, a young couple or a young employee for a loop. Because that's a big expenditure. It's an unbudgeted expenditure, and it's something that you need right that second. So Purchasing Power is a program that allows, you're essentially giving yourself a loan to buy that thing, and then it's like you have a payment plan out of your check moving forward. So it's a really great program that can be really beneficial to folks, especially workers that have either less financial stability, either because they're young or because of other circumstances. But it's a really good program that not a lot of people know about or take advantage of, and it's relatively new. So so if you're already a state employee, check it out. But it is certainly something that is a meaningful benefit for state employees. You can also get your home and auto insurance at reduced group rates. So Travelers, Farmers, Liberty Mutual, right? It's not the CMS insurance program. Oh, I hear an unmute. Or was that an accident? That's been there. So that is available through My Benefits Plus. You can switch your carriers anytime. You can do some comparing of your current home and auto insurance and see how it stacks up. Critical illness insurance. So that is becoming I think as workers, as our older family members, like you think about it, you're like, whoa, man, I really don't. What can I do to ward against this financial instability moving forward? And this is a great opportunity. Hospital indemnity insurance. So while we have Cadillac Plus amazing insurance, depending on the kind of, depending on your health situation, depending on those of your dependents, you may be in a spot where you could use a little bit more insurance in this area. And so that is, this is an open enrollment program that's interesting and valuable. Legal services. So this was really interesting to me. So there are a number of opportunities, a number of times in your life where you're going to need legal services. You can actually contract for those, essentially a pretty cheap retainer for whatever it is that you may need legal services for. So that was a pretty interesting offering as well. Identity theft protection. It's always my credit card and never my husband's. It's the weirdest thing. But if this is something that is important to you and your family or makes you nervous, you have those benefits available as well through My Benefits Plus. So thank you, Kim. I got a question about Disabled Workers Training Program, Successful Persons with Disabilities and AE programs. So we do have, I will send contact regarding programs for persons with disabilities. Brandon Singer is in the CMS Bureau of Personnel. He is the Disabled Workers Program coordinator or manager or some sort of doer of the things. And so he is a good contact person. And particularly for the Disabled Workers Trainee Program, it might be Corianne Golkovich, who is the Deputy Director Personnel. She has been instrumental in getting those positions up and running. Non-union paid education and training opportunities. So, so the BMS, Bureau of Personnel Training Coordinator, is Samantha Kelton. But for the paid education and training opportunities, so those are things that can be made available by agency. Agencies can approve them, but it's a state statute, I believe, or personal. I will shore that up and let you know. Okay. Any other questions before we move on to how to actually access these career opportunities? Okie doke. All right, so as I kind of mentioned, right, variety of career paths available within the state. We have more than 45 different state agencies, not even counting the boards and commissions that do various different kinds of exciting work. We have every position under the sun, right? Lots of clerical and administrative. We have tons of healthcare jobs, social service jobs, public safety, health inspection. We have lots of engineers, law enforcement, information technology, runs the gamut. Lots of scientists, lots of finance jobs, all kinds of things. And there's one place to find all those opportunities, and it is work.illinois.gov. So this is just an image. So when I send you the actual PowerPoint, which I'm happy to do so in PowerPoint, not just in PDF, you can actually list this. You can list this image. Those QR codes take you directly to work.illinois.gov. We'll also talk a little bit about career counseling, and that QR code takes you to career counseling. Okay, so high level, state employment application process. You find a title, complete an application, you submit the application via the link on the electronic posting. It gets evaluated on the back end, then it goes to the interview process. Now again, so the flag here is now that all union positions are in electronic application processes as well, there are tons of union jobs that only get filled by other union members. If you see a posting for a widget maker 3, it is 99.9% of the time going to be filled by the most senior widget maker 2, for example. And then that widget maker 2 vacancy is going to be filled by the most senior widget maker 1. And then when you see the widget maker 1 post, that's your time to get in, time to shine. So we are trying to, currently all positions are posted both internally and externally because of the change to processes. We wanted to make sure that state employees and union members in particular didn't miss opportunities. But we are looking for ways to streamline and limit the number of external postings to those that actually may ever get to an external candidate. Okay. So we talked about this a little bit. Electronic application process is now fully implemented. All postings July 1st and after will be posted online for electronic application. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to focus primarily on external candidates because my understanding is that is primarily who your customers are. So this join talent community is an opportunity, is where you're going to be invited to create an account. And that's always going to be your first step toward applying. Now, people can go on and look look for jobs, play with the map, and do all of these other things. But when they go to apply, the first thing they're going to have to do is create an account. And I'm going to actually go to the live website, and we're going to walk through some of those things, but this is just kind of the high-level overview to remind you for when you have your slides and you use them. Okay, so create a candidate profile. You only have to do this once. I can't begin to tell you how much consternation this gave some of our state employee friends. I have to do what? Create a what? You do it once. I did it while squatting on the floor or on the ground in front of a laptop on a table at the DuQuoin Fair, and it took me 5 minutes with a stranger. So he was also having to tell me the information because I didn't have it. It is no big. It is not like a CMS 100 where we invite you to tell us every single job function you ever performed in any job since high school. Instead, it provides high-level employer, date, title, and whether it's still your job, and we'll walk through that. But it also gives you the ability to upload any relevant documents, transcripts, certifications, a resume, CPR, employee of the, or, employee of the year, or whatever you want, volunteers, anything that you, that anyone would ever want a potential employer to know about them. You can upload those documents, and you can upload them once and they stay there. So things like your nursing license or your college transcripts, those things can be uploaded once and left there. You will be given, every time you apply, I am a fast talker. Thank you for the flag. You haven't missed anything yet because we're going to go through it all again. This is a high-level overview to almost like a table of contents of what we're going to go through when we go to the live website, and then a reference guide for you when you get it back, whenever you get the materials. Okay. So union employees also have the ability to reference old grades and have those considered as part of the hiring process as they move forward. So that's relevant to union employees only. So once you have your candidate profile set up, you find a job you want to apply for, you answer the application questions, and you click apply. So in that respect, it's very much like applying for a job on Indeed or Monster or something along those lines. You create a candidate profile, you find the job, you answer the questions, and you click apply. So we're going to look at some of these things. So again, here's the home page. We are going to bounce out of the PowerPoint and actually go to the website. Okay. Whoa. All right, so a couple things to note here. Work.illinois.gov is the vanity URL. You'll see this weird illinois.jobs2web.com. That is like back-end magic. Work.illinois.gov gets you there from everywhere. I also work on a Surface Pro, and so sometimes, depending on which screen I have it in, it thinks I'm on a mobile device, and it automatically goes to a mobile-friendly format. So you can also visit work.illinois.gov on your phone. And you can apply for jobs there. You can set up your candidate profile there. You can do all of the things from your phone, which is a really big plus, I think. All right. So some features of the main page. If you are a state employee, I'll show you this in a little bit, but click here for the career portal for State of Illinois employees. As we continue our IT transformation, personnel history information will be linked with this hiring module. And so when you log in with your illinois.gov, it will auto-populate your information based on where you sit in the enterprise. But there are also some great resources specific to internal candidates. I'll show you those. But for the vast majority of the people that you work with, they are going to use the external site. I'm going to show you a little bit about it, and then we'll come back up and create a candidate profile. All right. So one of my favorite things about the page, about the new website, is the ability to search for jobs on a map. So I tell the recruiting staff, especially those like in Chicago, do not write applicants off, especially downstate, based on how far they live from the job. You know, these deep Southern Illinois people are road warriors. They can be in Kentucky in the time it takes some suburbanites to get to Target on a bad day. So it really gives power to the applicants to make informed decisions about kind of where they want to work, see kind of high level overview, what things are around, these are active postings only. Okay. So they can search that way. There's some information here on this band about some of the various programs that the state runs. And then we have positions broken down by job family, what they're called. So if you click on clerical and administrative support, you will see all of the current job postings for any state agency that have been identified as falling in the clerical administrative support work family. And jobs can be in multiple. So here's an example of the Disabled Workers Trainee Program. It'll be called out on the posting. So there are a number of positions from across the enterprise if you know what industry you're looking for. I don't know if Richard has a question or if he is just unmuted.
Richard, we're getting a lot of extra sound. If you have a question, if you wouldn't mind typing it in the chat, we could probably get it answered better that way.
This is my favorite one, and yet we still have trouble filling finance jobs. You'd think that this, Abraham Lincoln doing his taxes would be enough to get everyone to apply. Alas, we have trouble. Okay, so that's kind of general search stuff. Something else that's exciting that I will show you. For example, people can, so 62883. Search by postal code, 62883. So that is a downstate, so it's one that was offered at, it may even be DeCoins. And you can set a search for how far away from home. So if you know, for example, you have a client that wants to work at Murray Developmental Center in Centralia. They can just put that zip code and they say they want it within 2 miles or search by that town. But if they're open-minded to a broader search, they can search for anything within 50 miles of my home. And so you'll see that with this one, right, Bonnie, wherever that is home to a state park, sounds like. Mount Vernon, Centralia, Austin Central, Carbondale, Marion, Harrisburg, Chester, Anna. And there's even more search results because there's lots of jobs in Anna. Okay? And once we set up a candidate profile, I'll show you how they can set up a job alert so that every week they get an email with their own parameters with all of the existing postings. Okay. So we'll go back to home and say you have a first timer that's like, okay, how do I get into the state? What do I do? How do I get prepared to apply? So they can either join Talent Community, or view profile. The view profile you have to create an account. Okay. So create an account. It's going to ask for your email address, your first name, and say that you live in the United States. And then you'll create an account. Once you've already created an account, you can start by going to view profile if you want to make any changes. So I already have an account, so I'm going to log in real quick. Keep in mind, I also have an internal account. This is just for demonstrative purposes. Okay. So if you have someone who goes to view profile and they don't have one yet, they can go here to this create an account and start fresh. All right. So once you have an account, sign in. And there's some information about candidate profiles generally. It's important, this little note here about checking your junk or spam. So the email that you put in, that you link to your candidate profile, is where the system is going to communicate with you. And it sometimes goes to an other folder because it looks weird. So we say that straight up front. We do have a link to employment security, providing tools. Okay, and a place to ask questions. All right, so we're going to expand all sections just so we can see, so we can walk through them. I have an old resume that I uploaded January 19th, 2021, which is when we went live with Merit Comp Jobs. So that is an old one. But so I uploaded a resume. Non-bargaining unit jobs do require a resume. And so, I mean, as you guys know, there are multiple resources available through IDES and DCEO for resume development assistance. If folks want to do that, it doesn't have to be flashy. We really don't have preferred mechanisms. But if you do have a resume, it can sometimes auto-populate. You put your resume first, it'll auto-populate your work history, but not necessarily great. But so you can attach any additional documents you have. This would likely be a place where I would upload college transcripts if that was something that was important to the kind of jobs that I would be seeking, certifications, etc. You can put anything you want here. So contact information, name, address, phone number, email. There's the data privacy statement. We'll come back to this. Your profile actually keeps track of all of the positions to which you applied. If you start an application and want to save it and go check some information and then come back and complete it, it saves here to your candidate profile as well. And then this is what your previous employment looks like. So unlike the CMS 100 or 100B, that provides like 15 pages worth of boxes and how many people did you oversee and what categories of employees and what's everything that your employer ever asked you to do while you were in that job. It merely is asking you for your place of employment, your job title, and your work date. So for example, before I was Chief Administrative Officer, I was Senior Policy Advisor. It is not my current position. And I worked there 2019 till I don't know why. 2019 to 05, 03, 2021. Okay, I don't know what I did weird on the other one. Okay, and that's it. So I'm saved. So even with an extensive work history, it's not going to take you that long to complete that section. Education, it invites you to provide information about your educational background. I have no marketable skills, I like to tell everyone, so I leave that empty. But everything from language skills, welding, any kind of other skills that you have, if you're CPR certified, anything that is relevant or that you would like to keep track of, you can keep it here in our candidate profile. Certifications or licenses, this is for ease of lookup. So as I mentioned, I am an attorney. So there's my law license information and what my preferred county is. And that's it. That your candidate profile is complete. You are happy to go about your job search. Any questions on candidate profile before we go apply for a job? Right. As we go through, if you see anything else, let me know. Oh, cancel. See, I do love that it does that. I love that it stops me before I lose my changes. Save. Thank you very much. So now it's saved. Okay. All right, let's go back out to the front. Let's find a job. We're going to search all jobs. And I want to see them all. So there are currently 358 job postings. And anything sound exciting for anybody? If you know a dietitian, please tell them to work for the state. There's only like 2,000 in the state. Okay. Let's look at a VNAC. That's a great one. Okay. So Veterans Nursing Assistant Certified is our super confusing way of saying CNAs. CNAs that work at veterans' homes are called Veterans Nursing Assistant Certified. We have, there are 2 big postings going up today, probably. One in LaSalle and one at Anna. So if you work in either of those areas and you know anyone, and obviously there's one in Quincy as well, so let's look at it. So this is what a posting looks like. It'll have all of this is kind of disclaimer information. How often are jobs updated? How back prior jobs have to be included? How many years would you go back on your work history? Okay. So on your work history, I would probably, I did it once because I wouldn't want to mess with it. So on my internal candidate profile, which is the one that I work from the most when I'm showing like internal, like when I'm showing state workers, I went back to my first full-time permanent state work, which was right out of law school. So I didn't include my student worker time. I didn't include internships. I didn't include other stuff that I did after high school or during college, but I did my whole legal career. Now that said, what you'll see when we apply, you have the ability, the first thing that when you click on apply, the first thing that it invites you to do is update your profile. So if you were applying for a job that some other experience that you hadn't already put on your candidate profile was important, right? If I was applying for a job managing an ice cream shop at the veterans home where they let the veterans in the community mingle, that was a new thing they were going to do, I may put my work at the Bumblebee ice cream shop in 1995. I may put that on my candidate profile and I'll be given that opportunity to do so before I apply. And then how often are the jobs updated? So the postings are available for a minimum of 10 days, 10 business days. So when we talk about job alerts, that's why I recommend 7 days, getting every 7 days, because if you at least get an email once every 7 days, you won't miss any jobs. Some are up later or up longer than that, especially hard to fill jobs, but a minimum of 10. And then when the posting closes, they are no longer available they disappear from the external site because no one can apply to them anymore. Does that answer those questions? Anybody have anything? Okay. So let's look at this posting. So this is stuff we're all familiar with seeing, various relevant information about the job, okay? So here's one that September 6th that was posted. The closing date, the last day to apply is the 20th. It tells you where it's located. So let me explain this piece for you guys, if that, because that could be helpful as well. So the CNAs are union positions, that 3386 to 4618, that is the full range of the bargaining unit scale. So that is everything from the first entry step all the way up through step 8, which CNACs are asking, so they have 8 steps. So it has the whole salary range on there. So if you take this job, you have the ability to make up to 4618, but the anticipated starting salary is the bottom of that range, that 3386 a month, because that's what the union contract spells out. So that's the distinction there. It is RC9, which is the bargaining unit code for facilities. This CNA is in the nursing department. They have posted for 45 vacancies. 45 vacancies, they're hiring for all shifts. And then there's an agency contact information. So these are actually different work units and the number of vacancies they have in each of those work units. I think they're like either houses or cottages or whatever they call them. Anticipated feels like there is room for application, or for negotiation is there. People can always ask, but especially for union jobs, the contract drive salary, so it is a much bigger deal. If you, for example, if you saw a non-union job like an SPSA and it said anticipated starting salary $80,000 to $90,000, there's much more room for negotiation on non-union jobs than jobs that have negotiated salaries, which makes sense because, right, there's people who have been there for 2 years and are at step 2, say, and hiring a new person in at the same level as them is going to be cause for grievance or challenge and contrary to the contract. So you can always ask, but on union jobs in particular, when you're advising folks, when they say that that's your salary, that's when they identify that anticipated starting salary, that is most likely what they will offer you and where they will stay. Is it up to midnight? I believe so, but I will confirm. I should get an answer before the end, and I will check it. Okay. What if you are a returning state worker? You still have to apply in the same way that reinstatements have always had to apply. People have to apply. Now, if you're a returning state worker and you're talking about your salary, the contract still drives that. So if you have left state service and come back, contract doesn't govern your pay and doesn't anticipate your pay in quite the same way. It's something to have a talk about. You can certainly always, I'm not telling you not to ask for more money. If you leave state service and come back to an entry-level job, you will likely, your seniority starts over, your creditable service starts over, and your pay may as well. So there are more drivers, and there's no hard and fast. I don't know what exceptions might be made. Let me put it that way. Okay. So the posting also lists the job responsibilities and the minimum qualifications and preferred qualifications. So the difference between minimums and preferreds are this. This is what happens in the background. So the minimum qualifications are essentially an audit, yes, no. Either you meet or you do not meet. If you do not meet all of the minimum qualifications, you are not eligible for the job. Preferred qualifications usually lead to application questions. So they'll ask you about your knowledge of the provision and prioritization of personal care for residents, for example. And maybe this is a terrible example because lots of times we just hire every CNA that's minimally qualified. But those preferred lead to application questions that are then weighted based on importance, and that's how you can tell from a pool of candidates who is most qualified. So everyone that meets the minimum qualifications then would have to be scored based on their responses to the preferred qualifications. So if you have 100 applicants, you're not interviewing 100 applicants, you're interviewing the applicants with the highest score based on their responses to the preferred qualification. Now, and this is how we can get away from the CMS 100, which asks everything you've ever done ever in the history of your life. We used to scour those 20 pages of paper for a buzzword that might tell us if you had experience with the prioritization of personal care for residents. Instead, in the electronic application process, we ask you what your experience is. Do you have experience in this preferred qualification? You answer yes, no, and then you get an opportunity to say so. Say how you got that experience. Okay, so probably not a great one because I'm guessing that there are no. We'll go back and look at another one that has more application questions. Because there are a category of positions that we do not do application questions on and we don't do interviews for. If you are minimally qualified, we will hire you and train you. Okay, so you have the posting, and what do you want to do? You want to apply. So here's that posting again. Like, are you sure this is the one? Yep, that's the one. And the first thing it does is it takes you to your candidate profile. So if I had my lawyer profile, I put all my legal experience, but oh wait, I did also work at a nursing home in high school, and I want to be considered for a part-time PRN, CNA or something. Okay. So I'm going to go back, and I have the ability to go back and add that. I'm like, oh, I want to say I worked at Sunny Acres long-term care facility, or skills or certifications. I'm a certified CNA, those sorts of things. But if I have no changes to make, then I just click on through to apply. How'd you hear about the opportunity? This is for our purposes of knowing what works. So to the extent that we have, a great turnout, and we get a lot of hires that identify this particular event, we'll know to continue to do that next year, for example. Okay. There's voluntary disclosures, diversity information, all of our non-mandatory things sections give people the opportunity to prefer not to disclose, including ethnic, well, those are actually race, but yeah, diversity information, gender, disability, veteran status is required. I am not a veteran. Am I authorized to work in the state? Yes, I am. If anyone asks you a question about that, we do not, so this is actually, we are in discussions about how we gather demographic information, right? The world keeps on changing. This is, we will likely have, and in the new, whenever people become employees, we'll have much broader information. This is actually sex, is essentially what we're asking. So either at birth or it's more, we will end up with separate categories for sex and gender. But in the meantime, there is an other, if that is, if the response is, if the binary options are not applicable or aren't right for an applicant, they have that opportunity there. Yes, imperfect, a work in progress. Okay. Authorized to work in the state. Heads up, the state does not sponsor visas. If you have a green card, we will happily let you work for us for as long as you want to. If you have some other status, some other visa status that does not require the state of Illinois to sponsor you, we're cool. We do not sponsor visas at this time and never have, to my knowledge, or at least we're never authorized to. Success with Disabilities Program. No, I'm not a participant. This is really like a help us, help you. If you're a DHS voc rehab person, you would answer yes, and we'd be like, oh, great, we can connect with those folks. And I am not a participant in the Upward Mobility Program. So again, remember I said that professional development, upward mobility allows people to kind of to get different consideration. So that is a help us, help you. No, no, no for me. Yes, no, no, I mean. If they have that, I believe DACA recipients do not require employer visas. So if they have a work authorization status separate and apart from something that requires the employer to pay for the sponsorship of that employee while they're in the state, then they would be authorized to work. But I am not an immigration attorney. But that is what we the problem we run into is when or we have run into of late is when students, folks on a student visa get a STEM option extension, come work for the state, and that extension is only good for a year. And then they work for us for 6 months or so and say, hey, now I'm a certified state employee now. I'm an AFSCME member even sometimes. I would like you as my employer to sponsor me for a work visa. We do not do that. So at the expiration of their visa, we separate employment because they are not authorized to work in the U.S. We do our part. We are helpful in, well, some more than others, quite frankly, in getting connecting people. We do encourage them. As much as we love you, as great as your work is, we're not in a position to sponsor you. We totally understand if you need to go to another employer that has the ability to sponsor you. We will miss you. We will get a big cake. Upward Mobility Program. The Upward Mobility Program is a jointly administered program by CMS and AFSCME. There is online enrollment. Okay, so let me do this. So if I was interested in I would reach out and get information from the upper mobility staff. I would contact upper mobility, probably CMS.UMP counselor. Hey, how do I get involved in UMP? And or call. You can also call AFSCME, but it's the CMS team that's actually going to process your applications and your stuff. Okay. All right, so let's look here. Here are your questions about your yes, nos. Have you successfully completed the CNA program? Yes. For question 2 or 3, only answer yes to one question that best describes your experience. Select no, it's not applicable. Have you passed the written competency test or passed it over 1 year ago with 1 year of nurse aid experience? God, that's really clear as mud. I love that one. Great work, team. Have I passed the competency test? Yes. Have you passed it over 1 year ago with 6 months? There's multiple ways to be qualified. You can either have passed the test within the last year, passed the test over a year ago with a year of nurse aid experience, or passed the test longer than a year ago and have 6 months of nurse experience with at least 1 day. My heavens. Conditions of employment questions. We ask them right up front. We're very clear about what it is that you need, more so than that jumbled mess. Yeah, I'm going to meet all those requirements. Okay, as you can tell, remember we had all those lists of preferences, not one single question about them, because we only ask minimum qualification questions on CNAs, because if you meet the minimums, we will hire you. Okay, and then you would click apply. I'm not going to, because it will mess up people. Up to midnight on the day of closing. If it closes 9/20/2022, you can apply at 11:58 on 9/20. All right, so let's go back real quick. All right, what questions do we have about that process? Oh, let me show you a couple. Okay, here's a couple other things. So we're going to go back to the profile. So, right, I did not apply for that job because then it would actually put me in the thing. When I was working with another group, showing another group stuff on August 29th, I did actually accidentally click apply. So I applied for this job. And and it shows that I withdrew my application. Go back to my profile. Okay. So it will tell you that it will show that it was accepted, so you don't have to worry about the fact that maybe it was lost in the mail, those sorts of things. So that, I think, is an advantage to the electronic hiring as well. Now here is, you will, in addition to the PowerPoint slides, we have a job aid available around setting up your candidate profile and setting job alerts. Job alerts are awesome. Job alerts are really helpful for folks that kind of know what they want to do or where they want to work. So when you're in your candidate profile, go to options, job alerts. So I currently have a job alert set for nurse. Actually, let me look and see. I was just going to show you a copy of one if I could. I found one. I'll look real quick. But okay, so it is. You can create a job. It's as easy as creating a new job alert. Okay, so if you know that you want you want a procurement job. You work in procurement, but you hate your boss. So you want, oh, good. Here's what it looks like. Okay. So you want to see every job. You want to see every procurement job in the state. At this point, you're willing to move any job that says anything in there. Okay. So you can preview your alert. Okay. Look. So if you set an alert for procurement every 7 days, you're going to get, this is what you would get first. And then these are all the jobs that this is the equivalent of the report that you would get every 7 days. And that way you can tell if you like it or not, right? If you, I know folks, I mean, if it's narrowly tailored enough to get what you want to get. So I also know some folks want to work for DNR. All right, so we're going to say they want to work for DNR and they want to see what all jobs are available. They're like, whoa, I don't want to work in Bourbonnais. That's really far away from me. I probably need to narrow my search. So I'm going to do DNR, but within 50 miles of Carbondale, for example. And now oh, look, that is a much more meaningful search for me. And then you create the job alert and it comes to you every week. This is what it looks like as I found it. So I had that nursing one, right? So you are receiving this email because you joined the talent community in February 2021. You will receive these messages every 7 days. Your job alert matched the following jobs. So I have one set for nurse in Sangamon County. And so this is what, interesting. Oh, maybe I had procurement up there too by the time I got these, right? So then you can click right from here to manage your job alerts. That will take you back to your profile and you can adjust those. But this is a great opportunity for folks that think they know what they might want to do, where they might want to work, if they're in kind of rural settings where maybe they just want to see everything that's at Quincy Veterans Home, right? They live outside of Quincy. That's where they want to work. They want to help veterans. Show me everything that's at CVA in Quincy. And they could get those. Okay. Okay. All right, anything else on job alerts? I got a couple questions in the chat. All right, so one is about knowledge, skills, mental development equivalent to completion of college with coursework in business or public administration. That phraseology does not require you to have taken business or public administration courses. Okay, so it means that's your opportunity to say, either yes, I went to college and I've worked in a business, or I've worked for a business, I've worked in the public sector, so yes, I totally meet this. Sometimes you will see it's really for the non-college equivalent, right? So if you didn't go to college, or you didn't get a bachelor's, so if you have an associate's degree, you would say, yes, I meet this requirement because I have an associate's degree and I have, and I have multiple years of experience working at an insurance office. These two things together provide me the, have the equivalent experience of some yay who's fresh out of college that took one marketing class. So that's, I was going to find a real quick. Okay, so this is a PSA option 6. It is a union job, but no one would have rights. So let's look at the application questions here. Okay, minimum requirement, X amount of years of professional experience. So office setting work counts as professional experience. Work in licensed professions, things that do not count as professional work, retail, usually, unless you're a manager. It is kind of like the Supreme Court in pornography. They know it when they see it. I know that's not helpful. But I think that is a really good flag for me, so that when on the page where we say, like, here's some tips or whatnot, we tell people, give people context. I know they have something. I don't do that every day. So I know that they have a training, like what counts. But that is a good flag. I will use that. Over here. Okay. Yes, I will talk about background checks in 1 second. Okay. So here's your requirements for this job. Requirements that you meet to possess 3 years of progressively responsible administrative experience. That's another lovely one, right? So PSAs are high-level mid-managers. So instead of, again, the word soup vomit that is the CMS 100, we're going to give you an opportunity to say whether you meet this. Yes. And if you answered yes, what's your experience? 3 years progressively responsible administrative experience. You would say, I have been with DHS for 10 years, serving in positions of increasing responsibility throughout. Right? That's something that you can say. Thank God for spell check. Okay, so that's a minimum requirement is the 3. It is a requirement of this position. So now when it says there's additional questions, and this is kind of that, so these are those preferences that help the cream rise to the top of the pool of minimally qualified folks. You possess at least 3.5 years, but less than 4 years. No, I just told you at 5. Do you possess 4 or more years? Yes, I do. I'm going to say no. I have 7 years. Right? Do you possess 4 or more years? I actually have 5 years. I actually have 7 years from my time at IBM, whatever it is. 3 years of professional experience managing a social work program. So for each of these, these are different weighted preferences to find the most qualified applicant from among those who are minimally qualified. So instead of kind of hiding the ball and having all this information on a crib sheet somewhere that folks don't had no insight into, we put it right on the face of the application. We tell you exactly what we're going to consider and invite you to tell us how you meet the various pieces and if you don't. Now these requirements, so if you don't have, for example, you have not been a liaison. So do you possess 3 years of professional experience serving a liaison? No, I don't. That's not going to kick you out of the pool. That's the last preference. It's going to be the lowest weighted because we weight them, we list them in order of importance. So that saying no to one preference is not going to kick you out of the pool by any means. By any means. All right. I'm going to go back to my slides real quick. I think we've kind of killed all that we talked. So I put these things in your in the PowerPoint slides so you can remember, right? So when you're on the candidate profile, you go to job alert, and it pops up here. You can preview and save them. Create new job alert. Oh, this is the internal candidate creation of job alert. I'll show you that real quick. But while cognizant of time, career counseling. We have internal CMS BOP folks that meet with potential applicants. Here they share their resume or their work experience, and they help them kind of decipher or pull out what kinds of job titles would be good for their experience, would match their experience, and what their goals are. And we do that counseling by, we do it in person, we do it over the phone, we do it by email, and we do it virtually. So there are lots of different opportunities for folks to do that. This is how you get started. This email. This is the Disability Resource Center. So in addition to the names I put in the chat, this is a great site that's manned by a number of people, a great inbox. And if you have questions about the Veterans Outreach Program, those are in your slides as well. Okay, let me. Okay, let's go back. Yeah. So you cannot search by salary presently, but yes, you can search by job title. So for example, if you wanted to be a correctional sergeant, you could get every job. This one is, they nicely say, can only be reached via promotion, corrections treatment officer. What's another example of it? An accountant. Show me all the accountant jobs. Supervisor, accountant advanced, accounting lead. So here are, yes, somebody who wants to do accounting. They got lots of options. You cannot search by type. You cannot search by salary. Okay, background checks. Positions working with children and pharmaceuticals. Are there any restrictions on hiring returning citizens? I'm not sure what returning citizens means. The background checks are the level of background check and what is performed for site agency. Very few agencies. Oh, got it. Returning citizens. Oh, from jail. Got it. Thank you. That was not a term that I was used to, and I guess maybe because we were talking work visa status. All right. So yes, there are background checks. Lots of times names. There's a new state statute that requires anytime that an employer, including the state, seeks to bypass someone based on their background check, they have to kind of engage in a interactive process, much like the ADA, and tell them what the hit was, what we found in the background check, why it has to be connected to the work to be performed. There's a few weird ones, like, for example, I know back in the day when there were still OC lists, we did remove someone from the list who was on a sex offender registry list. We took him off all of Revenue Sangamon County list because Revenue shares a building with a daycare, so they could not employ him. To do so would be a violation of state statute. But we're looking at connectedness to the job, right? If your criminal violation was embezzlement, we're unlikely to hire you in a finance job. But we do not have prohibitions on employing people who have been incarcerated generally, right? If you were incarcerated for selling pot, we don't even test for pot in our background checks. I mean, in our in most of our drug tests. Now, our DOT ones, I think we do, but like for DHS, for example, we don't even test for cannabis anymore. Okay, so real quick, I'll show you the internal portal. From the main page, you click on the state employee portal. Oh, dang it, you log in. It'll invite you to log in with your Illinois.gov account. I was already logged in. That is the trouble there. Okay, there are searches here. You can search. It looks a little different. The one thing I would tell you is there is an internal creating job alert. Job aid. There's a job aid regarding completing the electronic application, including the internal profile. Tips for email communication. So watch your other junk mail or whatnot. You can have a search here. The cool thing on the internal candidate profile is it will actually tell you the job to which, like, so for example, so a job you applied for, right? So if you applied for that administrative assistant, what was the action that was taken? You applied, the requisition ID number, what date you applied, and then it'll tell you the actual status of that hiring sequence and where it is in the steps. Like, what is the next step? The next step is interview. Well, you haven't heard yet. If you see that the status of this changes to interview and you haven't heard from anybody, that's a flag for you to reach out and say, hey, listen, I should have been interviewed for this job, but I haven't heard anything. You can save jobs to your spot. We have the candidate profile looks a little bit different on the portal. It asks the same kinds of information, allows you to update your resume. The only difference here is we do have, we ask internal candidates bargaining unit information. So that's like a help us help you. So we'll confirm it, but if we know that you're a bargaining unit member or you have a lottery number, those are things that would be helpful to us to know. And your job alerts are on your saved searches and alerts. Create a new job alert and save it there. Okay, so with that, I have reached the end of my slides. I am going to stop sharing. And it looks like we have 2 minutes for questions. I do like to leave more time for questions, but you guys did a good job of raising them throughout, and I hope that you felt like you got answers. I am, yep. And I am Sarah.Curley, no numbers, no weird things. So I'm Sarah.Curley at Illinois.gov. So if you have any questions, you can certainly shoot them to me that way as well. Be responsive, usually. Hi, faces. Good to see your faces. Go find us some CNAs, would ya? 45. We got 45, and Quincy will have probably, I think, maybe that many as well at LaSalle, and Anna going up today. So be on the lookout. We're also continuing. Thank you to the Illinois workNet team, Olivia and Daniel, and DCEO and IGS even more broadly for continuing to partner with us. We're going to try to get relevant information in your hot little hands on a timely basis so that when you're working with folks, you can actually point them to existing vacancies that second. So, okay. Olivia, I don't have anything else, and it looks like everybody is ready to get on with their day.